A man got close enough to a UFO to touch it, and when he did touch it, it burned him so badly that he was sick for months. And some of the symptoms that he had stayed with him for the rest of his life. His name was Stephen Michalak, and this happened in 1967 at Falcon Lake in Canada. I actually saw something that was like what he described to investigators afterward, but it was actually a bit further away. Like the one that I saw was probably about a mile or so away, but it had no wings, no doors, no tail, anything like that would indicate that it was an airplane. And this guy, he was at Falcon Lake, and he was an amateur geologist, and he was doing some speculating. He was looking for quartz veins, and within the quartz veins he was looking for silver and possibly gold, and that was kind of his shtick, was to go out there and look around. And one day he was out there and he heard a flock of geese that were making a bunch of noise and were like flying away and were really rattled about something. And when he turned around, he saw these two UFOs that came flying up, but one of them flew by and kept on going, and then another one came down. And I can't say whether or not it actually like pulled out landing gear, or if it just kind of hovered above the ground, or however it was. But according to what Michalak said, was that when this thing came down, he announced himself. He was like, hey, and he did it in like different languages, because he knew multiple different languages, because he was from Poland originally. And he actually moved to Canada after World War II, and he was in the Polish resistance forces fighting against the Germans during World War II. But anyway, after the war, he ended up there in Winnipeg. But in any case, he was announcing himself like in Polish and English and whatever languages that he knew, and the thing was unresponsive. But one thing that he did mention was that he could hear some voices or something that sounded human or sounded kind of like English, he thought, but he couldn't make out what it was. It was just indistinguishable or like inaudible, really. But he heard something emanating from this thing. And then he also mentioned that this craft was producing a low hum, or some kind of like low vibration kind of sound. And so he just slowly worked his way up to it, and he like put his hand out and he touched the thing. And when he did, some kind of exhaust or some kind of gas or something shot out of this vent that was located on this craft, and it knocked him back, and it lit his clothes on fire partially, and it like set his hat on fire and stuff as well, and it caused some severe burns to his stomach, and he had a lot of other issues too, because he had like nausea, he had vomiting, he had some symptoms of radiation sickness, like some of his hair fell out, he lost his appetite, he had constant stomach aches. And like I said, some of these things lasted with him through the rest of his life, that they never really went away. But when he ended up, after all this happened, this craft, once it blasted him, like the thing took off, like it went straight up and out of there. He ended up going to the hospital, and while he was there, he was explaining to the doctors kind of what happened and stuff like that. And they were like, really? So they got in touch with the RCMP, which is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. The RCMP came to come see him. I believe even some special investigators from America went up there to hear his story and find out what he was talking about and, kind of hear him out. And they eventually, once he started to recover and, was feeling better, he went out there and he showed them exactly where all of this happened. And then they did readings and stuff, and they had their Geiger meters and stuff out there. And they read that there was a radiation level that was slightly to moderately above normal, but not enough to really signify having like some kind of radiation sickness or radiation poisoning, because the clothes that he was wearing at the time of this incident actually did ping on the radiation, I guess, Geiger meter, Geiger counter or something like that. But I will say that the symptoms that he was describing, I've also had those kind of symptoms. I mean, aside from the burns. But if you've seen some of my other videos, you will know that I got hit by a UFO with a laser in my eyes while I was driving up the interstate. And when that happened, it made me feel nauseous, made me feel sick to my stomach. It hurt my eyes and made me feel pretty bad overall. But luckily, all of my symptoms only lasted for a few hours. And when I woke up the next day, I was feeling fine. But this guy, I mean, it ended up getting him really good. But, it goes back to what I said. It's like, if you happen to see these things and you happen to be close to them, look, don't touch, because you don't know. I mean, there are risks involved, and these things could be using technologies that we know nothing about, and it could be very hazardous to your health. So make sure that you're using some caution if you ever find yourself around something like this, whether it be big or small. Just hands off, no touchy, okay? So another thing that I wanted to mention was that after the story started to really get out, he got a lot of media attention, and a lot of the people that lived in the area were not very welcoming and were not very happy about what he was saying. And, he received a lot of harassment about it. And from what I heard, even his children were bullied in school for being his son, like for whatever it was. That's one thing about it that I think adds to the credibility, was that the guy said that he wished that he never told anybody, that he wished that he had just gone home and treated the burns himself and just lived with it or something like that, because the amount of grief and skepticism and all of the mean-spiritedness that he experienced after it, he wished that he had never told anybody about it. Because and honestly, I understand what he means. I mean, I've never experienced anything on like a really large scale of people like harassing or anything like that, but I've heard enough from people who just don't understand and just don't get it. Like, he received so much scrutiny, and people, they were calling him a drunk, or they called him crazy, or they called him a liar, or they called him a drunk, crazy liar, or something like that. And really, it's like, you're just trying to get people to understand and to see things the way that they happen. Like, and I mean, I get it. I really do. But even though times are changing now and people are starting to, there's more footage and more videos and stuff starting to come out, there's still a lot of fakes out there. I mean, there are a lot of people who who do lie. I mean, the internet is full of fan art and things like that, and people telling fake stories, okay? And all of that stuff, it hurts the credibility of the people like me and like him, who have really experienced something, and we're just trying to tell you guys what it was, you know? And like, I don't know for sure what it was that I saw, but I know that it wasn't nothing. I know I saw what I saw. I don't know what it was, but I saw it with my eyes. And this Michalak fella, he maintained the same story throughout the rest of his life, and he ended up dying in 1999 at the age of 83. So if you guys have been enjoying the content that I'm bringing to you, I encourage you guys to subscribe to the channel, hit a like on your way out. It helps the channel, it helps me grow, helps me get what I have to say out to more people. I know that it's risky in some ways, telling people my own personal stories and trying to tie in other people's stories with my own. But I think that it's a great way to get the point across, because I don't think that there's too many channels out there with people with as many experiences as I've had, who can talk about these things from a point of experience. So if you guys are liking what I'm doing here, and if you think that it's worth your while, I hope you'll follow, and I hope you'll like the video. You guys have yourselves a good rest of your day, night, evening, weekend, and we'll see you guys again on the next episode. I hope to see you there. Thank you.